Good evening. It is Monday, January 27th, 2020, and I call to order the second meeting for the month of January for the Speedway Town Council. I'm David Lindsay, President of the Speedway Town Council. Joining me this evening for a meeting to my far right is our Clerk-Treasurer, Monty Combs.
Good evening.
To my immediate right, Councilor Dan Jensen.
Good evening.
To my immediate left, Vice President of the Council, Vince Noblet.
Good evening.
To his left, Councilor Eileen Fisher.
Good evening.
To her left, Town Manager Jacob Blaisdell.
Good evening.
And our Town Attorney, Bob Clutter.
Howdy do.
Our agenda has been posted, which we will follow this evening. The first item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. If everyone would please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item 2 on our agenda is approval of the minutes of our January 13th, 2020 council meeting. Those minutes have been distributed. Any corrections or changes? Hearing none, those will be approved as presented. Item 3 on our agenda is Ordinance 1323, which is an ordinance regarding additional appropriation for certain construction costs of the school town of Speedway. Our school superintendent, Dr. Kyle Trebley, is here this evening. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you, Town Council. On behalf of the School Board of Trustees, I'd like to thank you for your time consideration for this, for additional appropriations. What we're bringing to you today is the additional appropriations for a project construction at Newby Elementary. 3 years ago, our enrollment was roughly around 170 students, which filled each classroom, but still allowed us to have special ed rooms, intervention rooms, and also related arts rooms. In the last few years, we've gone from 170 to 245. Our increased enrollment has caused us to find every square inch of Newby for environment, for learning, and at this point in time, we are teaching in hallways and closets and workrooms. So after time, consideration, and seeing how our numbers were going to balance out for the last year, if you will, we've decided that we would like to ask for this construction project. The scope of the project is pretty simple. It's classrooms and bathrooms. After sending it out for bid and sending it out for feedback from our architects, we had 6 alternative bids with the base, and the base was additional 4 classrooms and bathrooms. The alternative bids that we sent out were 1, an additional classroom. The second one was upgrade as existing. The third one was adding a chiller that's about 28 years old right now at Newby. The next one was additional windows or to match existing windows, and finally to upgrade our mechanic room. So that's what we're asking for, additional appropriations for the scope of the project, which again is classrooms, bathrooms for a student set of bathrooms. Let me be very clear on that. There is 1 set of bathrooms since 1952 at Newby Elementary. So we have classrooms stacked up waiting to go to the bathrooms also. So I think that's important to note for additional classroom bathrooms, and we will add also a teacher bathroom for that building project. So that's kind of the scope of classrooms, bathrooms, upgrade our mechanics.
Great.
Mr. President, I move that we approve ordinance 1323 as presented to us.
I'll second that.
Been a motion and a second to approve ordinance 1323. Any comments from the public? Hearing none, any comments or questions from the council? Hearing none, we'll then call for the vote. All those in favor of approving ordinance 1323, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries 4-0.
Thank you, Council. I'll return next month for additional appropriations in our rainy day fund, which will pay for cash for the result of the construction bond. So, in other words, we're looking at paying about a little over 30% of this project in cash to reduce the tax rate that we've asked for. And we're very confident that our numbers will come in at a very low rate, and hopefully we'll do a lot of these projects that we're looking at for the last few years. We have the cash, we've saved for the cash that we can pay for these projects with cash. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Item 4 on our agenda is approval of a build, operate, transfer agreement with GM Development for the Speedway Government Center LLC. Jacob.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. So this is the build, operate, transfer agreement with GM Development or Greg Mart's Development that will really do the renovations of what's kind of currently the PNC building and turn it into the Consolidated Police Administrative Office and some school administrative offices, as well as some community space. And this is I've said before, there's so many agreements, so many public hearings and different things we've had getting to this point. And this is, of course, an agreement that again, does actually start to make progress on the project. And I just wanted to mention, that this is a process that has been going on for even well before me as town manager, starting with doing a site study, trying to meet this need of the community. That goes back to 2013. At least that was the study that was on my desk. I don't know, there might have been studies before that when I got into this position. So appreciate there's been years of work in the making to kind of get us to this point. The BOT agreement specifically, it is part of the state statute for public-private partnerships. This structure allows us to do some value engineering, find ways that we can reduce costs in certain areas to make the building as much of a value as we can. And it also is a structure that allows us to shift the construction risk, a lot of, if not all of the construction risk, over to the contractor, the developer that's doing the work for us. And I'll just point out that Mr. Martz is here tonight. If there are any questions that we want to have that would ask, he is here to answer them as well.
Okay, I believe at this time, this has been published as a public hearing prior to approval.
That's correct.
So we will open the public hearing at 7:07 PM. Anyone in the audience that wishes to address the council about this project may now step forward and speak. We'll say it's now 7:08-ish PM. We will close the public hearing. Any comments from the council?
I've got a couple of questions for Greg.
I believe first we need a motion.
A motion?
Second.
Okay. I'll make the motion that we approve the build, operate, transfer agreement with GM Development.
I'll second that.
Okay, been a motion and a second, and we'll actually start with council questions first. So Vince, go ahead.
I got a just general question. What can you give the public a time frame of when you actually? I know we've already started demo at this point in time. How long it's going to take you to marshal all your construction people, and what your end date is for this project?
Yes. Our beginning date, the date that demo will be far enough along for us to actually start putting stuff back with new construction is February 10th. So on February 10th, we'll have our initial construction crew coming in at that time. And then the construction will be done sometime this fall. I believe the contract says November, if I remember right. And so we're looking at construction completion by November of this year.
So you're looking at taking off the roof, basically, and gutting the whole inside, changing all the structure inside to accommodate all our departments, police department, everything, and move forward with it. Do you see any challenges what's going to be the toughest part of this build?
I mean, to me, the toughest part of any renovation project is just what you uncover. But the good news about that is they're already about 75% done with the first floor that they're working on, and so far there's been no surprises at all. So I would actually tell you that the part to pay attention the most to is between now and February 10th, really. So we're right in it right now, and so far so good. We meet with the demo contractor on Wednesday. Will be our next meeting with them for update from them. But again, I feel like the toughest part of the project will be the first part that's done, which is good for all of us.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the council? Bob, is there additions to this?
There are two ancillary agreements that are contemplated by the BOT agreement itself. One is just a general certificate of the town, essentially just reciting the statutes pursuant to Indiana law in terms of open meetings, the public hearings that you've had on this, the various different public hearings, not only on the BOT part, but also on the bond part that you've already complied with. So that's just a general certificate. They're very common, just saying that you have authority to enter into the agreement. You've done everything pursuant to Indiana code. The second agreement is an easement agreement, just allowing Mr. Martz the legal ability and authority to be on the property and do the work as contemplated by the project. Those two agreements are both recited specifically and referenced in the BOT agreement, so I would also ask your adoption and approval of those.
So do we need to amend the motion to include them?
No, because they're already
in there?
contemplated in the BOT agreement. Yes, sir.
Okay. And then I'll open it for public comment one more time. Anyone from the public wish to comment after hearing what we spoke about? Hearing none, we'll then call for the vote. All those in favor of approving the build, operate, transfer agreement with GM Development signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries 4-0. Item 5 on our agenda is appointments to Speedway Boards and Commissions. We have several boards and commissions to fill this evening. First, we will start with the Cable Commission, and we have 5 positions that are up for either reappointment or new nominations this year.
I'd like to nominate Mike Urich.
I would like to nominate Bill Stinton.
I'd like to nominate Tony Rice.
I would like to nominate Gary Pedigo.
And I'll nominate Jerry Henchman.
Mr. President, I move that we close the nominations for Cable Commission as we have appointed 5.
Have a second?
I'll second that.
It's been a motion and a second to approve Mike Urick, Bill Stinnett, Tony Rice, Jerry Henchman, and Gary Pedigo to the Cable Commission. Then call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Carries 4-0. Next is the Community Development Corporation, and we have one appointment that is open for this.
I'd like to nominate John Reller.
Mr. President, I move that we close the nominations for the Community Development Corporation.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Vince.
Oh, you're welcome.
There's been a motion and a second to appoint John Reller to the Community Development Corporation. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries 4-0. Next is appointments to the Housing Advisory Council, and I believe there are 3 appointments to that tonight.
I'd like to nominate Chris Manifold.
Mr. President, I'd like to nominate Austin Templin.
And I'd like to nominate Rachel, is it Srage?
Shelby.
Is it?
No, you're fine.
Okay.
I would like to nominate Shelby Chaplin to that board.
Okay.
So then since we have 4 and we have 3, correct? Wait, did you nominate a third?
Rachel.
Rachel? Okay.
And Barry is on.
Rachel,
Oh. I think
Weaver?
she's staying there. I don't think is that an open spot? I think she's staying there.
Rachel Strange.
Oh.
Is she still on there?
I
Jacob.
think that's her maiden name.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So,
That's Rachel Wheeler now, correct?
Wheeler?
correct, yeah.
And she has
Okay.
moved out of town.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Mr. President, I move that we close our nominations of Austin, Shelby, and Chris to Housing Advisory Council.
I'll second that.
Been a motion and a second to approve the three names just mentioned by Counselor Fisher, so the president doesn't have to rename them again. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries 4-0. Next is our Public Transportation Board, and we have 2 nominations open for that.
Mr. President, I'd like to nominate Colette Nicolini.
I'll second.
I have one more.
I'll nominate Ron Fisher.
Mr. President, I'd like to move that we close the
Close the
nominations for
nomination.
Public Transportation Board.
I'll second it.
There's been a motion, a second, to, to approve Colette Nicolini and Ron Fisher to the Public Transportation Board. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries 4-0. Next is Solid Waste. We have one.
Nope, we're doing a hold on that
We're
one.
done.
Nope, okay. Stormwater,
Nope,
nope.
doing a hold on that
How
one.
about Economic Development Commission?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm on a roll. We have one
Yes.
position for that.
I nominate Bill Jones.
Nope, not
Or
on
is
that
that
one.
for the,
That's, this is Terry Reed.
oh, Terry Reed?
We're a well-oiled machine this evening. aren't
Yeah.
Mr. President, I'd like to close nominations for Economic Development Commission with Terry Reed.
I'll second that.
we? There's been a motion, a second, to appoint Terry Reed to the Economic Development Commission. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries 4-0. See if I can get this last one right. We have one position on the Speedway Redevelopment Authority.
And I'll nominate Bill Jones for that.
I'll second.
There's been a motion, a second, to appoint Bill Jones to the Speedway Redevelopment Authority. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries 4-0. There are a few boards, as you can tell, that still have positions available. We are currently evaluating and reevaluating, and we expect to have more appointments to those in the next meetings or 2. So that went very smoothly, thank you.
Okay.
Next is approval of claims and utility adjustments from our clerk treasurer, Monty.
Thank you, Mr. President. We've brought to you the claims for the period of January the 11th through January 24th. As I've said for about every time for 6 years and 3 months, that business as usual. Appreciate your approval.
Mr. President, I move that we approve the claims presented to us by Clerk Treasurer for January 11th through January 24th.
I'll second that.
There's been a motion to approve the claims as presented by our clerk treasurer. Any comments from the public? Any questions or comments from the council? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries 4-0. Monty, utility adjustments?
Yes, of the same period, January 11th through January 24th, total adjustments of $1,646.83. The bulk of that was in one particular situation. I think it was multiple apartments, if I remember correctly.
It was
So,
one of those 4 units on
I'd
25th.
appreciate your approval of those as well.
I'll second.
Mr. President, I'll move that we approve the adjustments that presented to us by Clerk Treasurer for same dates.
I'll second.
There's been a motion, a second, to approve the utility adjustments as presented by our clerk treasurer. Any questions from the public? Questions or comments from the council? Hearing none, we'll then call for the vote. All those in favor of approving the utility adjustments, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Monty, anything else?
No, sir.
Well, I'm going to mention something this evening that you told me not to mention. You have served this town for 6 years and 3 months.
Yes,
You have done an outstanding, fabulous, wonderful job,
thank you.
and we, I'm not for sure how to describe the office when you came in, but it is in a much, much better place today than what it was 6 years and 3 months ago, and I thank you for your service to the town and the work that you've done.
Thank you.
It has not gone unnoticed. We hate to see you leave, but it is your call and your decision, and I respect that.
It was time. Simple as that. And I want to make sure everybody understands they got a great staff that's really made that happen, not just me, that's for sure. And they do a fabulous job for us.
But thank you again for
Thank you.
the years of service you've
Thank
given
you,
to the
sir.
town.
Appreciate it.
Next is a report from our town manager. Jacob?
Thank you, Mr. President. Regarding this project, our maps went through without any further comment, which means they've been officially adopted by FEMA, and they had them uploaded on the FEMA website right away, which was great to see. So the next step, of course, is for individuals to contact their mortgage holder or their insurance company. Different companies are going to have different requirements on what they want to see and look at. We have heard from some folks that they are asking, their companies, the mortgage companies asking them to go to FEMA and go through another process or come up with more information. Our understanding is that that shouldn't really be required. Our letter of map revision has been adopted and approved and accepted, and so anybody with an internet connection can go online and see that the maps have changed, and so we've heard from some folks that it has been relatively easy to do, a phone call and kind of explaining that we went through the letter of map revision process and it's been adopted by FEMA. But in order to help folks that might be getting a little bit of pushback, we're going to have on our website, it should be up now, really our letter, and you can see it on the screen there. It's the link on the homepage of our website. You can click that link, and it's going to have the information that you should need, including the letter that we received from FEMA as a town that the maps have been adopted, as well as some other background information on the project, and basically everything that you should need, that you might need to produce for your mortgage company or your insurance company, should be behind that link as you figure out what's maybe is needed to clear your house. So as you have questions or concerns, please continue to contact my office. We've been helping folks through it. There isn't any more documentation you should need from the town, but we can maybe help link you up with the right information. So good news, but now it's the process of getting everything cleared with everyone's lenders. I also want to have a reminder that we'll have the Speedway State of the Town will take place on Tuesday, February 4th at 7 p.m. Have some good speakers and some announcements lined up, so hope to see as many people there as possible. And then last but not least, I'll also congratulate Monty. Monty and I have actually worked twice together now. First time he was the CFO of the Bureau of Motor Vehicles, and I was a budget analyst way back in the day.
Remember those days?
Yeah, and then now I've gotten to work with him here. So appreciate the work you've done for not just the town but the state and the many other endeavors that you've had. And just congratulations on retirement.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
Thank you, Jacob.
Great.
Next is report from our council members. We will begin with Councilor Dan Jensen.
I've done it this time.
Thank you. Councilor Eileen Fisher.
I'd just like to thank Monty as well for his service here with the town. He did have a mess to clean up, and he's done a great job at that, and it's got us back in order, and it's gotten us a lot of money, so thank you.
Thank you.
Wish you and Betsy the best.
Thank you.
That's all I got.
Thank you. Next is our Vice President of the Council, Vince Noblet.
I'd like to thank Monty, too, for all the work that you've done. And I mean, you're such a hard worker. What are you going to do?
Probably Betsy will throw me out.
That's what I'm thinking.
Sure, she'll say, go back to work somewhere.
No, I mean, you really deserve the time off, and, just reflecting on the problems that you had to overcome. And I think it was important that you surrounded yourself with a staff that supported you. And that's a key to anything in life, and having the right people work with you to get the job done. You don't have to supervise them, and you move on to more important things. And I think with your guidance, that position is a critical position to this town, and I appreciate all the work that you've done.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Vince. Next is my report, which I have nothing else to add, so we will adjourn the meeting at 7:24 p.m.